episode 6.
Should have been episode 20,000. That would have been
Really
ideal.
should have been. Kind of giving it away. What
Could
we're getting into.
Could we have waited that long, you think?
You think there's 20,000 sub movies?
There are not 20,000 sub movies.
Not yet.
Well, no. I mean, most of the sub movies were made like pre-1950 because they were obviously obsessed after World War II.
A lot of people really were, and they still should be obsessed with submarines. But
not everyone can be.
No, not everyone is. Alex, what are you drinking
tonight?
Over there in Ohio?
Vanilla cream soda, the Kroger brand. It is delicious. I think I've had it a couple times now on this show. I recommend it to everybody.
All righty.
Wow.
Nice plug for Kroger. Get some.
It's like $2 for like a 12-pack. So, I mean, and sometimes they even have deals where you can get 5 12-packs for $10. So, like, it's cheap, but for being cheap.
5 12-packs for $10?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And it is so delicious.
It's probably a good thing you're not, partaking in the alcohol since you're captaining the ship tonight.
Oh,
Designated sub driver.
Oh no, am I? How did that happen?
We're drinking. We can't captain the submarine.
I haven't found a little gem in my fridge. A summer shandy from last year.
Wow, I hate summer shandies.
We're approaching February.
I do not.
Summer shandy.
Do not like summer shandies.
I thought they were just going to ship that stuff year round. Now I thought that's what they were planning on doing. It was so famous there for a while.
I wish they would.
You probably do.
I don't know why. Every time I go to buy it, it always says on the box, limited release. It's not a limited release at all. I mean, how is it? It's everywhere under the sun.
Yeah.
They don't sell it on Christmas. It's limited.
True. It's a shame. It's a shame. What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Second Floor Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains, Alex the Thoughtful, Jamie the Brain, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion. Shall we tear into it?
I think so. It's going to be a long. I feel like it's going to be a long recap, although maybe not. But it's felt very long, like a long movie to me. Like it just kept on kind of going. A lot of little vignettes that didn't really have a huge amount of impact at certain points.
Well, they're kind of drawn out.
Yeah, like the whole cannibal stuff. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Like, what was the point? I don't know. I'm just not sure.
Alex, take it away. What movie we got tonight?
Well, tonight we've got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Good old Disney film from back in 1954.
Yeah, it's funny. Wow. I used to think that it was 20,000 leagues like down. Like they went down so far into the ocean without realizing that's ridiculous. Because a league, I didn't really know what the length was, but a league's 3.45 miles, I guess. And so like 20,000 leagues would be like 63,000 miles or something
underneath the sea.
Which, I mean, you'd go through the Earth multiple times. It's considerably larger than the diameter of the Earth. So like,
we could have been on a different planet.
I think where it could have been something where they go down far enough that they kind of go to like a new world. It's kind of, I don't know, like kind of like Journey to the Center of the Earth, or
right,
something where they're able to go into this new world that seems so large, and they just keep on going. But it's, I don't know.
Goodness.
That's the same guy. Yep, Jules Verne.
Yeah.
I also thought it was going to be straight down, not. We traveled 20,000 leagues across.
But still, even then, like, it doesn't make any sense. They would have to have been like going in circles, because even that would have been going around the Earth underwater for over 2 times or something. That's at least 2 times the circumference of the Earth. So like,
I don't recall that happening in the movie.
They would have to circle the Pacific Ocean like multiple times to get 20,000 leagues. Didn't seem like that much.
No, you can't do that in 2 hours. This is the
and
first
thus
movie,
it's an
though.
inch sub.
Right.
Science doesn't hold up, guys.
This is the first movie that breaks convention with all our other movies.
Yeah.
It's not a war film.
No, so no fish in the sea. There's no torpedoes to be seen.
None.
Nope.
This also.
Did they just ram things with it?
They were just ramming boats with
like the greatest scientist. Let's ram them with this boat. It's like, well, you couldn't figure out a different way of doing this one.
had to kind of. I enjoyed it, but it kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't? Well, I guess so. At the time of the movie, it's 1800s.
Yeah,
so everybody just got wooden ships.
President Lincoln times, right before the Civil War, I think.
I think it's right after the Civil War, right?
It can't really be because Lincoln's picture is up in the boat.
Well, let's see here.
So he's the current president of the United States.
Civil War dates from April 12th, 1861 to May 13th, 1865, according.
Yeah, so this was right in the middle, I guess. Yeah.
No,
right after.
I took a picture of the opening sequence in the year 1868.
Wait, when did Abraham Lincoln die? Look that one up.
All right, Alex, you get on that. I'm going to read this quote.
All right.
Okay.
In the year 1868, the shipping world was alarmed by rumors of an avenging monster on the loose. A series of strange events befell certain vessels cruising the great South Seas, and travel along this nightmare sea lane dwindled to a few bold ships.
That's bold. Just like those ships.
It is.
Yeah, and so we open up and this is the setting. There, ships are being destroyed by what they think might be a sea monster, and as a result, sailors from other ships are like, hell no, we're not going to get on this, like on these boats. So they're getting a lot of trouble getting the crew together for any ship. And we open with someone telling a story. Oh, I survived the sea monster. And then Kirk Douglas, handsome devil, one of the last living golden age era actors today. I mean, he's like 101 now.
Yeah,
he looks like he's like crazy old now. But he comes in and he's like a ladies' man. He's got 2 ladies on his arms, and he's just like, fuck you guys. Gets up there, punches a bunch of people in the face, and is like, this thing ain't real. This is fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's totally fine. And then gets arrested. And so that's our introduction to basically the movie, is like, Kirk Douglas kissing ladies and punching out people. That's what this movie's all about. And you're like, what? All right.
Right.
Yeah. And
there wasn't much kissing on the sub.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing. It didn't make any sense. But then they go straight over to, we have our Professor Aronnax and his apprentice played by Peter Lorre, famed Peter Lorre. Probably most famous for Casablanca, he became famous in the United States for playing a serial killer in M, and so he was like a super famous actor. But this is pretty close to when he died, so it's at the end of his career. And
Did you notice in this movie how he wore his pants
super high?
Yeah, about up to his nipples the entire time.
Yeah, so he was near the end of his life. And,
what's people in submarine movies are like? I feel like I'm running out of time.
I know. Better get on the submarine movie now.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to make it to Asia because they're marine biologists and they want to study marine biology in Asia and spread some of that knowledge, but they can't find a ship at all. And, we get a little bit of a scene of people coming up in the press, fake news, trying to like spin some quotes this way and that from the professor for their own devices.
Oh, right. Because somebody asks him about the monster and said, do you think it's real? And he said, well, it could be real.
It could be a giant narwhal. And then, but like that kind of goes directly into the government coming to find him. They from that news article, they know that he's in town. And they need a scientist to lend some credence to a ship they're sending out to try to prove that there is no sea monster, and that nothing to worry about. Shipping should go on as usual. Like it's not real. It's all just like whatever they're shipping, the ammo and ammunition and stuff exploding by accident. Like that's it's no monster. It's just exploding ammunition. Everything's fine. It's just everything's exploding because of ammunition. Get on these ships. It's no big deal. That's what we'll prove.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So they end up getting a ship together, and they're on there. The 2 scientists.
Kirk Douglas
shows up because obviously he doesn't give a shit. He's like, whatever. I'm ready to harpoon whatever. Like literally only cares about harpooning.
That's his job. He's a pro harpooner.
Yeah.
And he's dressed differently than all the other sailors. Everybody else is in a uniform, and then he's in like a red striped shirt.
Because he's the harpooner. He's literally always got his harpoon out. I feel like that's another thing.
He's like second in command.
I'm slaying ladies, and I required in my contract, I need a giant harpoon. And everyone needs to know me as the harpoon man. I harpoon everything. And they're like, oh, this is a kid's movie. Oh, man. And I'll sing a lewd song about hitting up a bunch of mermaids. What is this? Why?
So
Um,
anyway, they're on the ship for quite a while, and they don't see anything. There's nothing going on. And
super boring. They're eating bananas, which
They are. I
Yeah.
even wrote that down.
Yep,
eating
they
a bunch of
were.
bananas. That was in the trivia too for this movie. Of like, no ship back then would have carried bananas. It was thought to be bad luck. I was like, what?
I told you that in an earlier episode, and you're like, why?
Yeah, but they said like that was listed in the trivia as like a problem with the movie. It's like he wouldn't be eating bananas on a ship. Come on, get out of here.
Somebody seriously saw this.
It'd be oranges, right? I mean, we know that from Phantom.
Right.
Right.
Should have been oranges.
Should have been bananas, but it was oranges. Yeah.
No, switch.
Sure.
Well, in Russia, oranges are actually the
Bananas.
unlucky ones. Bananas are the ones they bring everywhere. No, that's not true. So, anyways, they are about to pack it in. Like the ship is like, we're done.
Well, the captain is
it's
just
not
like,
a monster.
Screw this,
Yeah,
man. We're
it's
done.
not.
We've been all over this sea. We haven't seen anything.
Probably they went about 20,000 leagues around the sea at that point. On
Maybe
top
this
of the
was.
sea.
Yeah.
Maybe that was part of it.
This was probably involved in the adventure.
16,000 leagues on top of the sea and then 4,000 leagues under.
Right.
But they're like, we're gonna pack it in, and then all of a sudden there it is. It's a monster coming towards them.
Right.
And Kirk
With
Douglas,
glowing eyes.
Kirk Douglas is super jazzed. He's not even a captain, but he takes his dick out because he's pretty excited for the situation.
Right.
And by dick I mean his harpoon. And then he goes up with his harpoon, and he's like, time to take out this monster, and he throws it, and obviously it's a fucking submarine, so it doesn't do anything. He gets knocked out of a boat.
I would love to see that in modern day combat.
Yeah.
Like a submarine surfaces, somebody's like, hold on. Get me my harpoon.
Yeah. I'm going to take this motherfucker out.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought it was wooden. Why a submarine? So, yeah, he gets knocked out, and so do the professor. The professor gets knocked out, and then the apprentice jumps in after him because the apprentice is really weird dynamic in their relationship. I'm not sure
I
what's
think so,
going on
too.
there. He's like a 60-year-old apprentice to this professor who he literally will follow to his death. It's crazy.
It is really odd.
And so they jump in the water and they're floating around and it's pretty cold. And fog lifts and they see the submarine sitting there. And it seems like it's abandoned. They get on top and they don't know what it is. Seems like abandoned. They go inside and it's like a luxury liner, like basically a house.
They can tell it's some kind of ship, but
Yeah.
they've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, and it's the professor's really excited because it's like clearly like amazing technology, but they're also a little bit worried because they see the submariners out there burying one of the people that died when they rammed or not when they were attacking the boat. There was they shot them with a cannon,
Right.
and that cannon shot kills one of the crewmen. So they're burying that crewman, and they get really concerned that it's like that they're basically on the bad person's ship, and so they try to take out the boat and get away from there. But all the crew return and they capture them, and they essentially become prisoners of our hero? Captain Nemo?
It's
Villain?
really hard to tell.
Yeah.
I don't know what he is. It seems at some points they're like he's a genius. He could save the world, but the world is too damaged, so he can't save them. And then at other points they're like he's a fucking psychopath. Like,
Right.
we need to get the hell out of here.
Well,
or
the
else-
professor's all on board with him.
The professor is also like a very terrible character. He's like he's
Right.
such like a what to do? Like he's such a genius. Think about the knowledge, and it's like he's also a crazy person.
Right.
So let's get the hell out of here. Like there's no need to stick around.
We even skipped. This was not the first movie. This is the second movie we've had a song on the boat.
Oh yeah, that's right. The song
Whale of a Tale.
"Whale of a Tale," and that was actually Kirk Douglas singing and playing the guitar. He learned guitar for this role.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, the dubbing on that guitar was really bad.
Yeah, it looked
Well,
really
it's
bad.
Recorded it
Yeah.
ahead of time.
They always do. They always did. I mean, everything was recorded ahead of time. It's like saying, "Oh, Julie Andrews dubbed singing." It's like, yeah, but she was an amazing singer. It's just back then you dub all the songs.
Okay.
Oh,
that makes
okay.
more sense.
Yeah. But yeah, he played guitar and he, sang for it and all that.
Wow.
I actually thought it was weird. I was actually excited. I thought there was going to be a lot more songs, but it was just that song and then that song again, but drunker.
Over and over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of played throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. So I was hoping. I was like, "Oh my God, is this a musical? This is gonna be great!" I can't wait for the next song, and then there wasn't a next song.
I don't even know who would have sung it. Probably. Well, there was more music. Nemo was always playing that organ.
Well,
Could have sang something.
That was also, there's something about that too, as everyone was just like, shut up.
Right.
Like, he's like,
You're on a submarine. My God.
shut up. Like, I was like, he's just like a terrible roommate. It's like, you can't tell him to shut up. He's the captain. Like, but dear God, hold it together, man. I know you're thinking about your dead wife, but like, Jesus.
Something that, when I was watching this movie at first, I just thought, my God, when are we getting onto the submarine?
I know, yeah. And
When they step foot, it was about 20 minutes into the movie.
Well, most of our movies spend, 99% of the movie on a submarine?
Right.
So this is definitely, is it the least?
That we've seen so far.
Down Periscope, the only thing is they have those cutaway scenes. So they may
Right.
accumulate to a significant amount. But like, this one's quite a bit. I mean, it's just the beginning, and then you have times that they go on shore and stuff as well. So
Right.
they're not in the submarine as much as you might expect, considering they have to go 20,000 leagues.
Right.
You know.
Also, before they get caught by all the people on the submarine, they run into Captain Nemo's pet seal.
Oh yeah, Esmeralda.
Esmeralda. What a name for a seal.
That seal had all kinds of trivia associated with it too. Like how everyone had to feed a fish. Like it was constantly like badgering people for fish. So like
Really?
everyone on set had to have fish so it wouldn't like mess with scenes and stuff, right? So people off camera would be feeding it and stuff. And so everyone had fish in their pockets all the time. And so it just smelled like a fishmonger's market the entire time. Sounds miserable.
Ooh,
it did seem like Kirk Douglas seemed to be having, quite a time with that seal, though.
Right.
Being bestest of friends.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's get back to where we were.
Yeah, so they meet Nemo. Yeah.
Yep, they're captured. They meet Nemo. And they're, I don't know. I mean, what's going on? They're trying to figure out why the heck
So
he's
they're
ramming all these ships.
they're all prisoners and stuff like that. Obviously, he wants to kill Peter Lorre and Kirk Douglas, but like the professor refuses and even goes out and is gonna die with them. And so Nemo's like, "Oh, that was what I wanted to see. I wanted to see if you were so connected to humanity still that you would save these people who aren't basically worth it," which is crazy. I mean, he's a terrible villain in this movie. He's like, "Oh, they're garbage. We may as well kill them. They would just as easily kill me." But it's all this very abstract idea of like murder. It's like he would go out and they would have no problem selling ammunition. That's just as bad as murder. So I will murder them. And it's like, what? This logic is crazy. But so he's like, okay, everyone can stay, but you're all kind of prisoners. And so he's like, I'm going to show you my world a little bit to the professor so you can disseminate some of the knowledge back to humanity. And so he shows them, or I think either to stay with him forever or to bring it back. And so he brings them to their farm, which is like a underwater city or whatever.
Before they do this, they have the dinner,
yeah,
which I wish was even longer than what it was because I've got some of the ingredients down. It's really funny.
I think what I think is funny is that all the ingredients to me is like you could imagine nowadays it being like out of place. Be like, oh man, this thing is made of like seaweed, and they're like, holy shit, like get in the oh, I can't even look at that garbage. And I was like, oh, that's like sushi.
The whole time during this dinner scene, Kirk Douglas is sitting there, and he's not even using a fork; he's just eating off his knife.
Yeah.
Oh God, I love it. It was awesome.
Yep.
Kirk Douglas is pretty amazing in this. I found his character to be fairly ridiculous, but like. It's such a golden age era of acting that you get to see like a glimpse into. Like he's got to be the macho man. He's got to be punching people all the time.
Right.
He's got to be the guy. Like it's just like such a funny character in the end.
So some of the stuff that looked like they were about to vomit when they heard what they were eating. Nemo told them they're eating sea snake. People were like, ugh!
I mean, couldn't you imagine going to like an upscale
Fancy.
restaurant somewhere and being like, "Oh, sea snake, interesting. Like that's
I've
on the
never had
menu.
that.
Like, do I want to try it?" But being like, yeah, maybe I'll try it. Like, I don't understand. Sea snake. You're eating the sea snake.
Right.
What's the big deal? I don't get it.
And they also had blowfish covered in barnacles.
That didn't even make sense. What was that? Was that like pudding or something?
I can't remember. This
It was something that didn't make sense where it was blowfish. I was
This
like,
is the one that nowadays you would even see something like this in a comedy film. And the cream you're eating is milk from the sperm whale.
Yeah. Which again, it's just because of the name. Like milk from sperm whale. Now I wouldn't drink sperm whale milk just because that does seem a little bit strange to do. But like
sounds gross.
Yeah, but it's not like I know what the joke is.
Right. And
The
everybody
joke-
knows what the joke is.
Right.
If you didn't get it, it's because it's the sperm whale. Yeah. So
And then they sit down and they just smoke some seaweed cigars.
and that didn't make sense either. There's a reason why tobacco is what you make cigars out of. You can't make
Obviously
a seaweed
that-
cigar and get the same thing.
Well, have you tried?
That's true.
All right.
Valid point. Okay, so next episode we'll be smoking seaweed cigars. That'll be half of it.
All right.
The other half will be with the naval minister from Argentina, who is now fired. I think he's got a lot of time in his hands, so he could probably
Yeah.
come in live.
We'll probably have
Yeah.
to fly him up here. But
Yeah. And so they have this dinner, and they're like, "Oh, you all were super grossed out by it. Let me show you how I collect all this stuff you hated." And they go down to the city under the water.
because he said if you want to get different food, you can go down
yeah,
here.
we'll have
to
to get
this.
it. Yeah, everything's from the ocean. We don't do anything, so we'll go down and collect some food. And they go down to this like sunken city where they keep all their harvesting stuff. So it's just a bunch of fish traps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're grabbing all the stuff, and the professor is going off a little bit with he's going off with Nemo. They're kind of doing their own thing, and so Peter Lorre and Kirk Douglas, they go off and they find a pirate ship or whatever, a sunken ship, and then they find some treasure. And Kirk Douglas is like super jazzed about this. He's like,
Right.
this is how I get my own ship and become captain, and then I can have my dick out all the time. It's no big deal.
Right.
Everyone would have to respect me because I'm the captain. And he wants to grab it, but then a shark attacks. And Nemo saves him, and then they go back to the boat. And he's like, what the hell? I could have gotten that. We left the treasure. We left the treasure. And he opens. He's like, I get treasure for days. Look at all this treasure. I use it for weight. I use it for balance on this boat. Like, it means nothing.
Right. And then when they open the door, like treasure's just pouring out of it.
Yeah.
It's just all
Yeah.
gold. Something that I thought that you probably couldn't get away with in a movie today with when they were down there at the farm.
Yeah.
They were grabbing those sea turtles.
Oh, yeah. That was actually made me
Oh,
really
yeah.
sad.
I know. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, they were really, like, kind of manhandling some sea turtles.
Right.
Oh.
I
It
mean,
was
it's a
almost as
different
bad.
time, but
Yeah, it was almost as bad as the racist part of this movie.
yeah.
But
Well,
that's-
we'll get to that
That's
in a
for
little
later. Yeah, so then he's, Kirk Douglas continues to be obsessed with his treasure. I'm actually not sure why Nemo didn't just throw him some treasure. I know he's trying to teach him a lesson, like
bit. Right.
that world up there means nothing. Like, why are you so obsessed with this treasure? But like, throw him some bones, he would have been fine. Instead, it's like, I'm gonna close this door, but not lock it, and definitely do not take any treasure.
Right.
So he spends his time. He builds a little turtle guitar and
And-
uses that as a way to kind of get some.
But meanwhile, while he's doing this is when Nemo is just sitting there ripping all these solos on the organ, just like really just laying into it, having a great time, and everybody's just like, God,
Yeah,
we're
shut-
trying to sleep.
Shut up.
Why did you put an organ on here? Might as well just be playing bagpipes or just as loud.
That's another thing that's like, it's the first one that's not really a war one, or at least not a war games one at the very least, like
Right.
down Periscope, where like there's almost every single movie we have, it's like, we got to be silent. Be silent. We are trying to. This one, it's like, who fucking does not another submarine to be seen? On like a. Ooh. I think I messed something up.
I don't even know what that was.
I could hear it from here.
Well,
we'll
figure it out
find it
later. Yeah. Okay, edit this out. Edit point. And he's just jamming on this thing like without a care in the world. There's not another submarine to be seen,
No,
so no one he doesn't care.
there's not another one on the planet.
So they can be as loud as they want, and it's kind of a funny thing. It might end up being the only submarine movie we watch where that's the case, where they're just like jamming on a organ because they don't care. Like almost every single movie we'll watch, they'll be like, we have to be quiet because we're on a submarine, and there are other submarines that their only way of finding us is through sound. Yeah, and so he's jamming on that. They're getting a little concerned about him. He seems like a little crazy person.
Mhm.
Kirk Douglas is stealing some treasure, and so they end up
He gets
going
caught.
Yeah, he gets caught, but
by the seal.
the seal. Yeah, it's seal, right? Not sea lion. Seal. Sea
Oh,
lion. It's a
is
sea
it?
lion. Yeah, it's a sea lion.
Not the singer. We're not talking about.
Yeah, we're not saying it's not the singer seal. A sea lion, but
I'll have to look
they
that
end up going to an island where Nemo shows the professor kind of the roots of his revenge or vengeance on humankind. So
And this cracked me up because they're
Yeah.
like, we've traveled 10,000 leagues.
Yeah, 10,000
And then I looked and I'm like, oh, we're about halfway through the movie.
But think about that. They traveled 30,000 miles. It's like, wait, what?
Where did you go?
Yeah, what were you doing for 30,000 miles? And so they go up. He goes up to a ridge and kind of shows them all these shipping stuff, merchants, and they're just whipping the shit out of some people, like forcing them to bring ammunition or nitrate to a ship so they can make ammunitions. I found that also kind of funny. Is like they're just like whipping these people over and over again. It's like, come on, you got to spare it a little bit. Like they're doing their job.
They're
Why do you
whipping the same dude?
You
who's
can't
just,
just keep whipping. He's like, he's just carrying it fine, and they're just like whipping. It's like, yeah, you got to let him. He's carrying it.
I can't do it any faster.
Especially while you're whipping me. You're like knocking people over.
Whip somebody behind me, please.
Yeah. And so he's like, okay, see that? I used to be a prisoner for this like terrible country as well. And they tortured my wife and child to death. But I escaped with my crew and stuff. And, then I was able to build a submarine. And now I take vengeance on those that allow for such a nation to exist, which is basically everyone. He's saying, like, by trading with them and for your ammunition and for your wars, you are part of the problem. And so I take it out on all of mankind. And unless mankind changes their ways, I will continue to seek vengeance on mankind. And the professor's like, sounds about right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a pretty good dude. It's like, what? It's crazy.
Well, then he kind of has a change of heart when they get back in the Nautilus.
And then they get on. He's like, okay, theoretically that made sense. And then
he's like,
in
all right,
practice,
that ship's leaving. Let's ram it and blow it up.
He's like, whoa. What? And everyone at Kirk Douglas is like, wait, what? And Peter Lorre is like, hey, excuse me. And then they go and ram the shit out of the boat and kill everyone. And they literally watch as everyone dies. And like they didn't have a chance. And the ship explodes and damages the Nautilus as well.
And then this is when the assistant and Kirk Douglas are like, we really got to figure out how we get out of here.
We got to get out of here.
Because this is not good.
Yeah. So Peter Lorre is able to get a glimpse of the professor's journal. And in the journal, it says that they're going to a place called Volcania. And so he goes.
I couldn't read my own handwriting. I thought it said Valencia. And
no,
it doesn't seem correct.
And he goes to Kirk Douglas and is like, okay, we got to escape. He's like, well, we can't escape unless we know where we're going. Duh. And he's like, well, I do. It's Volcania. And he's like, well, where's Volcania? I was like, all we have to do is figure that out. Like, okay. So they go out and they search around a bunch. And then they see a giant map in Captain Nemo's bedroom, which is basically like Volcania is here. And they're like, oh, okay, there's Volcania.
Yep.
And so they steal a bunch of bottles which are filled with alcohol.
Well, and these
become
other
important
weird
later.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's filled with fish, which again, he seems to just really not like fish at all. He like eats a fish. It's like, I ate it. Am I going to die? It's like, I thought you were a fisherman.
Right.
Like,
you live
a harpoon person.
on the ocean.
Never eat a fish? Like, what's going on? This is bizarre.
I think that's kind of a prerequisite. You don't really get on a ship unless you're going to have fish in one way or another.
Yeah.
It's like that commercial that airs where there's like a hipster girl and she's like using a computer, but it's like one of those iPad computers. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? Work on your computer? And she's like, what's a computer? And I'm like, how old are you?
I hate that.
How do you not know what a computer is?
I hate that commercial.
How do you not
so
eat
much.
fish, Kirk Douglas?
Right.
How do you not eat fish? And so he empties a bunch of bottles, collects all the alcohol for later, and puts some notes in it basically saying, Volcania is here. Meet me there, or be square. And throws them all into the ocean. And is like, okay, here we go. When we get to Volcania, they'll be there, like, kind of waiting for us.
And something really intense happens.
Yeah, so then
the ship runs aground
on a reef,
right?
Because of they had damaged their rudder in the process of sinking that other ship. So they stopped. Like the rudder still wasn't working, so they ran aground on this reef.
And I also wondered here, just because of the time frame of the movie, and we saw them grabbing the sea turtles, we saw them just crush that reef like.
Yeah, I know.
Crush that reef in real life.
And when they were collecting like their food underwater, like they literally were like running over reefs. I was like, wait, what? That wouldn't fly.
It's frowned on today.
And so they're like, okay, well, do you want to collect specimen or something? Like Papua New Guinea's right over there, so like you could totally go over there. And the professor's like, no, I'm feeling a little blue, so I'm not going to do it. And then they're like, we can escape. So Peter Lorre is like, I can do it. I'm his apprentice. And basically Nemo's like, really? And he's like,
qualified.
it's like, what? I'm like 60 years old. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I can do it. And then Kirk Douglas is like, I can row real good. And Nemo's like, screw you. You're clearly going to escape. He's like, no, I'm not. And Nemo's like, okay, fine.
It really didn't take much convincing.
No,
It did
at
not.
all.
No.
It was. I actually think I did more convincing there than he actually
really
did in the
did.
movie.
But then, but Nemo also warns. He's like, hey, you got to stay on the beach because that island is filled with cannibals.
Yeah, there are cannibals there. And so they go onto the beach, and Kirk Douglas is like, screw that. Like, he was totally lying to me.
No cannibals.
There's no cannibals here. And so off he goes into the jungle. Of course, Peter Lorre is like, I can't leave the professor. I can't leave the professor. And Kirk Douglas heads into the jungle and is like, doot, totally fine, no big deal. And then sees like a bunch of skulls and is like, okay, maybe we weren't lying. And starts running because the natives are after him.
Right. And this was kind of weird the way they edited it. Like the sound kind of died down, but I wish it would have just like swelled and built and built and built, but it didn't. Like all of a sudden he's just running. And there wasn't anything going on.
Yeah.
But then you see like hundreds of these guys chasing him.
Yeah.
which
And
is
so, yeah,
really
I mean, this
intense.
is, again, probably would be frowned upon today. Actually, a very similar scene happens in the second Pirates of the Caribbean film, where they run aground with a ship and they head in and they get captured by cannibals, and then they have to escape, and they're running away from cannibals and jump on the ship as the cannibals are heading towards them.
Is that when
very
Jack
similar.
Sparrow, like, he paints the eyes?
Yeah,
on his
yeah,
eyes?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that actually did get some backlash when it was released in the 2000s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because, you're kind of painting certain cultures in like a bad light, but also like that region of the world doesn't love the idea that everyone just like is always like, Borneo or Papua New Guinea or whatever, like check out these cannibals. They're like, okay, come on, we're not really cannibals. Like,
Because they want you to
that's
go
a little
there,
bit of a stereotype.
so
So you can
they
get
can
eaten.
eat you,
Well,
yes.
no. No. Now he's a racist. But so they get back on the ship, and Nemo kind of shows a little bit of what the Nautilus can do because he electrocutes them until they leave.
Oh, well, yes.
I'm not really
So-
sure that makes sense, anyways.
No, it really didn't. But they barely get on, and they're getting arrows fired at them, spears thrown at them.
Yeah.
And then the professor and Kirk Douglas or Ned get down in, and they're like, my God, you got to dive. Like, they're here. Like, close the door or something. And Nemo's like, wait. And then he just waits till they basically are inside the sub and then just starts electrocuting them. And everybody's diving off the sub, going absolutely crazy. And then everybody on the sub is just pointing and laughing.
Yeah, just loving it.
They're like,
Electrocute those people. It was awesome. Yeah, so then after they finish up with their cannibal and fixing the ship, they head towards Volcania, right? This is when they actually...
Right.
Oh, yeah, they head towards Volcania. And so... Oh, no, wait, sorry. They get... before they get off the reef, they get attacked. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
they do,
a
by
ship.
another
A
ship.
ship shows up and attacks them.
oh, and here's a...
And they kind of like get off the reef, and they're like... And they just like jump off the reef.
So Ned was made a prisoner during this.
Oh,
he
yeah,
tried to
because he
escape.
tried to escape. He's
And
throwing a
then-
brig, yeah.
Here was a line that I also thought was a little, if you put it in today's context. So he's like trapped in the brig or whatever, and he's like, "Let me out of this glory hole."
Oh, yeah, I know. I didn't understand that.
I don't think you can.
I'm not sure you know what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
Different meanings.
So they get attacked and they get off the reef real quick, but not before they get totally messed up a little bit by the ship. I mean, they mess up the ship, they sink it,
They do, but they get
but
damaged.
they get damaged pretty seriously.
and they start sinking, and this
Yeah.
is the furthest I think we've ever gone.
It's got it.
5,000 feet.
Yeah, and not a mention of crush depth because I think probably the Nautilus is the Nautilus. So it's like crush depth. We don't know crush depth. There is no crush depth.
Right.
It's certainly much further than the crush depth we've seen in any of the other films.
Yep.
Right.
So they were, it's an implied crush depth.
This would have to be one of those like gigantic oceanic canyons that they're going down.
Yeah,
into.
like Mariana
That's
Trench.
really deep.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of strange because they were just stuck on a reef, and then 2 minutes later they're down as far as you can go.
Yeah, pretty much.
So must have
They
been one
barely
huge
move.
reef. Yeah.
Yeah, so as they fall, they get attacked by a squid. And he's like, remember that thing that I showed you 5 seconds ago? Let's use it again. And so they try to electrocute the squid, but it totally fries the breakers because the squid's too big or something. Science. And then
Well, I think that they used too much of the charge on the other one.
no,
the
I
other
think
guys?
it was because of the squid.
Oh,
They fried the breakers or whatever. So like, then they
it literally burst into flames.
burst in flames.
And nobody was. Has a fire broke out in every movie? No, not in Phantom.
No, and not down Periscope, right? We didn't have a fire
You're
down
right.
Periscope. So, anyways, they head towards the surface, got a surface, and fight this squid. And it's a pretty cool sequence with
pretty
fighting
nuts.
the squid. Apparently, it was originally shot. It was actually shot twice. Once in daylight, like as if just on a regular day, and then once in the storm because it looked too fake in the
In
daylight. Yeah.
Well, the storm scene was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's the thing. They added the storm. It made it look a lot realer, and also it just was a lot cooler. Like, it's kind of weird that they would even think to just be like, regular sunny day, like, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I mean, it didn't make sense. They were on a reef 1 second. You basically fall into a trench another second. Then they go up to the surface, and all of a sudden it's a raging storm in the middle of the sea.
Right.
Even though it was sunny when they were on that reef. I don't know. It is a little bit strange how everything like gets put together.
I guess
after
when you
that.
look at it like that, yes.
So they fight the squid, and he's like, we have to harpoon it between the eyes. If only we had a harpooner, but of course we don't. So I got to do it myself. And
And he hits it square between the eyes.
but it doesn't kill it.
No.
And he needs another one, but he basically gets grabbed by the squid and is gonna die.
Everybody's
when-
getting grabbed, and the
Gonna
tentacles
die.
are even coming inside the
Yeah.
submarine. And
Kirk Douglas escapes the brig, gets up there, grabs a harpoon, fucking kills that squid, jumps in the ocean in a storm, saves Captain Nemo, and brings him back up on board.
right,
And Captain Nemo's like, thank you. I've maybe kind of changed my mind about humanity. And then a second later, he's like, never mind, I haven't. You would have killed me. You would save me one day, but then would kill someone the next day, so it doesn't mean anything. It's like, oh, come on, man.
right.
It's like a hero. Like, literally, the professor's like, he's a hero. It's like, hey, man, hero may be a stretch. He's like, wait, what? He did like the
Just
craziest,
saved your
most
life.
heroic thing like we've ever seen. That was crazy.
Right.
He didn't have to do any of that. Even after he was like, man, I shouldn't have done that. It's just my nature to be a fucking badass.
I wish that's what it said. in the
Just
movie,
who I am. I mean, that's basically what Kirk Douglas said
basically.
with his arms and his dimple on his chin.
He did, yeah, because he was like flexing the whole time.
Yep.
And just
After this, he's like, okay, we're headed to Volcania, and he's kind of waffling. He's thinking about maybe giving a bunch of his really good inventions to the professor in order to give it to the rest of the world. He's like, maybe you've changed my mind, and maybe you, knowing what I believe so well and being my friend, will be able to convey to them what this is all about, what I'm all about, and convince them to put down their arms and use my technology for good. So they're heading to Volcania with this in mind. And when they get there, a bunch of warships, because Kirk Douglas threw all those bottles in the ocean. They found them, and they found Volcania.
right,
And Nemo is pissed and is like, I'm blowing this thing to smithereens.
right. And they have this little secret underwater passage
Mm-hmm.
to get into the middle of a volcano island.
What's weird is they just wanted all the secrets. It really was super coincidental. They got there and they were like, oh shit. They're like just going up the mountain. It's like, wow, that's really crazy coincidence. Like just when they arrive, you arrive as well. If they'd arrived 2 days earlier, they just would have went in and gotten all the shit.
Yeah, they probably would have.
Yeah.
So anyway, they
Movie
get
magic.
in there.
Yeah.
All these troops are descending into the crater that is Volcania, and they're shooting at everybody. And I think everybody starts to realize that Nemo's going to blow up the entire island.
Yeah.
So he sneaks on, he sets something up, and then he sneaks back onto the submarine, and he gets shot in
Yep.
the middle of all this insanity. And he just starts like falling all into the Nautilus, and
Yeah, he's
trying
able
to command it. But
He's
he's
able
like
to command
dying.
it. His dick, he pulls his dick out, but it's just not the same. It looks like
all-
it's real weak, and
Right.
it's on its last legs, really. And so is he. He's able to get the Nautilus out, but he knows he's basically dying. So they're like any normal person is basically like suicide pact. Time to fulfill our suicide pact.
He's like, the Nautilus dies with me.
Which reminds me, we're all set on that, right? As like for our podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. If one of us is going down, we're all going down. We're going down with the ship.
Birthday, death day. You remember that, Alex?
Oh yeah.
We all made a pact. We were going to party till we died on our 25th birthday. On one of our buddies' 25th birthday. Because we're like, what's past 25? And I guess we've discovered it's a submarine movie podcast.
Right, yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
it was worth it. But what's after a submarine movie podcast? Can't be anything, right?
There's really nothing.
Yeah. So either this goes on forever or this will be the end. Anyways, and then they're like suicide pact, and they're all super excited. But like, obviously, the professor and Peter Lorre and Kirk
Well, the
Douglas-
professor is sympathetic with this.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's a crazy person.
He's like totally brainwashed.
He's a weird character. I'm not sure what to think about him. Just like Nemo. Nemo is like, okay, anti-hero, like hero ? Villain ? I would lean more to a villain than anything else, but like he's kind of a classic anti-hero of sorts. And then you have the professor who is just like a dumb, awful person. It's just like, you are dumb. Like,
Right.
either go all in with this, but don't be so like waffly weird about all of
He
this
was
stuff.
the entire time. But then finally, when it's time, and Nemo's like, whatever, we're all going to die. He's like, well, all right, you're right. Let's just pack it in.
Well, yeah, he's like, I guess this is the way it'll be. And, Peter Lorre is like freaked out, but Kirk Douglas,
He's
the
like,
hero that he
"Hell no."
is like, have you seen my muscles? Like, hell to the nah. And he basically punches out a bunch of people. The first mate's like the final boss, kind of.
Right.
He keeps on coming back. And
Finish him.
Yeah, he's like kicking him, and he kicks him down some stairs, and he's punching him in the face a whole bunch.
And it started to look like he was going to drown him. And I was like, oh, this is
Yeah,
getting really intense.
that would be crazy. Yeah. And then he like props him up real quick. I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, yeah, Disney film.
Yep.
And then they.
But so this was kind of exciting because with like 5 minutes left in the movie, we finally, I would consider this a mutiny.
That's a good point. It would be. I mean, he's not
Takes over.
technically is a mutiny if someone like a prisoner who takes over, but I think you're right. I would say it's fairly close to
I mean,
mutiny.
they're
Close enough.
Prisoner-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like buddy.
Yeah, they're
Well,
in between
they're
a
frenemies.
guest and a prisoner. That's what they described it as.
Right.
But so he's able to raise the ship up to the surface and is like, we got to get the hell out of here. And of course the professor's like, I gotta get my notes. And it's like, you're kidding me. So Kirk Douglas punches him in the face, knocks him
Throws
out.
him over his shoulder and just carries him out of there. And then in like a fabulous
It's like the perfect
mushroom
end to a
cloud
garbage.
explosion,
Yeah.
the whole island just goes. It's awesome.
And they're like rowing away, and the professor wakes up, and Kirk Douglas is like, "See, that's why I had to punch you out, because the Nautilus is gonna sink, and the Nautilus sinks."
Right.
And then you get a little voiceover that's like, it's Captain Nemo being like, "And when mankind is ready, they'll rediscover all of these secrets," or something like that.
That's pretty good. Is that right?
The
from
end.
movie?
It's close. I mean, I just
You
watched it
practiced it?
not that long ago, since it took me like 4 days to actually watch this movie. It's over 2 hours long.
It is.
But yeah,
That's the movie right there in a nutshell.
it was an adventure, and it is one of these kinds of like live action Disney films that they don't really exist all that much. I think if you went to last year, maybe something like A Dog's Purpose is like the remnants of that family film that used to come out all the time.
Okay.
This would have been similar to like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and those Walt Disney films that were made.
Oh man, I haven't seen
back
that in a
then.
really long time. Doesn't
But-
it have a flying car in it or something?
That is Chitty
Yes.
Chitty Bang Bang. The titular Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Okay.
So what did you guys think about it? We got inches?
Inchwise.
You don't want to do league wise here?
Ooh.
That's
of
a lot
12
of leagues.
out of 12 leagues?
Out of 20,000 leagues. Out of 20,000 leagues, how many leagues does this one get?
Right. All right. I would have to give it, out of 20,000 leagues, I'm going to give it 13,000.
So basically like a 6.5.
6.5, yeah.
6.5 inch sub is what you're kind of saying.
Yeah, it was good. Don't get me wrong. And I really liked the adaptation, I guess, from the book. And Jules Verne, I think he also wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth, which I also really liked growing up. These were just films that my parents had when I was growing up, and I'd watch them when I was younger. And when I was younger, they'd scare me just because it seemed far-fetched and out there. And otherworldly, so to say. But now that I've watched it when I'm a little bit older, it's a decent movie, but still middle of the road for me.
I'd go a little higher on it. I'd say, given the time era, I was very surprised.
At the quality?
Yes. I also really enjoyed the squid attack. That's something we haven't seen yet.
It was a pretty amazing scene. If you're going to pick one thing out of it, I think that squid scene
It was pretty cool.
is pretty impressive.
I'd have to give it... I'd throw it at a 7.5.
7.5. So 15,000.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 15,000 leagues.
Okay. See, it's interesting because it's a good point with a squid scene. Very good scene. I really like Kirk Douglas. I don't think I've actually ever really watched Kirk Douglas in a film. I mean, obviously, I know who Kirk Douglas is, father of Michael Douglas. But like, he's from an era of film that I'm not super familiar with.
Right.
So, this may even be the only one I've seen, particularly of his like heyday, really. And so, I really liked him in it. Peter Lorre is a great actor. I don't know. I just found it really slow. And it was kind of a tougher one to get through. Like, I even found getting through hostile waters and stuff to be a little bit of a quicker, like, boom, 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 work through it. So I think I might have to give it 6 inches, kind of halfway there.
Okay.
12,000 leagues under the sea for me.
All right, so we got 12,000, 13,000, and 15,000.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
I think we're probably
like it.
underestimating it in the end. It is a classic film.
If you were to see this in 1954,
yeah, it's a
you'd be
classic
like,
film.
Oh my God, what did I just watch? That was crazy.
But the other thing to think about is like we're also judging it from a different criteria. We're judging it as like a submarine film as well. Like when I was thinking of the other films we've watched for this, like
it's very different.
It's very different. Yep.
Yeah, it's just got a very different tone to it. So that's why it's like it's a 6 probably as like a submarine film, but it's a classic film.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. I understand that.
I found it slower. It's just slower for a sub movie. It's very slow, extremely slow.
I was upset with how long it took to get on the sub.
Yeah.
That's what I kept thinking when I was first watching it. Because I was like, man, they're getting on this ship. I'm like, when are we going to get on the sub? Because you see the sub in the very first scene. But then 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Takes a while.
All right. So, what do we want to move on to? We got sub news. We got your submarine in depth.
Subs worldwide.
I've got trivia. I've got that kind of stuff. Should we move on to some trivia? Keep it with the movie.
Well, hold on. I wanted to talk about something about the movie. Did you guys think that it was like really philosophical in a lot of different areas? I felt I kept watching this like for a Disney film. Like I thought growing up, Disney films were just always supposed to be like really happy and there's always a good ending to the story and everything. But this one seemed to be really philosophical, touching on a whole bunch of different stuff. Like obviously this is coming out right around the time like of Cold War. I don't know if any of that was boiling over into what they were trying to do here, say,
I think
for
if
it comes into the how the novel went compared to this. But does one power, one nation, like really should have this much power, or one person, have this much power, like this guy, where it does have the capability to do a lot of good stuff, but everybody just wants to use it for like destruction, death and destruction. Like I was getting pretty deep, and then with the morality of how Captain Nemo acted and how he may be a survivor, but it tainted him big time, and then trying to save other people at the end, and then decides just screw it, I'm gonna take it down with me. Like it was all over the place, I thought, for a Disney film. And especially I kept thinking about that squid scene the whole time, because leading up into that, like at the beginning 20-30 minutes, everybody thought that the ship was a monster, and then for him to get attacked by a real monster and almost die, but that was like really crazy to think about too.
That's pretty good. No, I think for sure. I mean, they clearly changed the source of the power of the submarine to match the times a little bit. So when the novel was written, it was more around the time of when it actually took place, right? Like 1860s or something.
1870s, something like that.
Yeah. And so, he obviously wasn't predicting nuclear power. I mean, he said, I forget what the power was in the book, but it was something slightly different from that. And for making this film in the 50s, they clearly updated it to be pretty obviously nuclear power. He had discovered nuclear power in the 1860s and basically said human beings weren't ready to have that power. And, in the end, what's kind of funny about it's like, and then, this technology will resurface when humans are ready. And of course, now I think we look back and be like, maybe we weren't so ready for nuclear power. I don't think it was. But back then, I mean, we had just, stopped a war using nuclear power. So it was and it was supposed to be like the promise of energy forever and ever. And so like, I think there was a little bit, there wasn't so much of the ramping up of the, Cold War nuclear stuff. Like, I don't think Cuban Missile Crisis and stuff had happened yet.
No.
When this was made. So, I mean, I think there was still that little bit of a promise. So that kind of was an interesting end to the movie where it's like, and it'll arise when humans are ready. Nope. No, it didn't. So it still arose when we were not ready.
Right.
Not at all.
Even less so now than before.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good point because one of the questions I had wanted to ask was Captain Nemo, hero or villain? What is he? I mean, I think it's a really hard question to answer, and I think it's made even a little harder with this movie. I think they made it even more ambiguous than the book. In the book, I think it was supposed to be that he was a good guy in a lot of ways. He was a genius who was, seemed much more sympathetic. I think from what I know of the book, it seemed much more sympathetic towards him. In this one, there's a little less sympathy towards him.
With the way he was in the movie, basically saying that basically all civilization is totally screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I could have seen him being a guy who would just try to wipe out everybody. Well, and you couldn't really repopulate the planet with the people on the sub. You'd have to have other people. But try to create something, I don't know, that he thought was some kind of utopia, which is what he had under the water. But it was... I'm glad you brought that up, Alex, because there were those tones all throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Where he's like, civilization is totally screwed, and I'm down here because we couldn't handle it, or because it's better. I mean, it's just so foobar upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids are watching it like, man, wait, what?
Yeah.
Daddy? I don't know.
What does it mean that civilization is totally fucked? What does that mean, Dad? Like, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, like one of the reviews I read said that kids would love this movie just because of the adventure in it. But like the more you think about it, like it seems pretty like deep. Like
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, if you read Frankenstein, and this is similar, I mean, this is a similar vein. Jules Verne, Frankenstein was a lot of like science, good or evil science.
right.
And, in Frankenstein, it's even more philosophical. It's like, we would create a monster, but are we the monsters? ? And you're like, oh shit.
Ooh. And then you can just think back to Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park.
But I mean, I guess that's the thing, because I watch this movie and I say like, he's a villain. That's in my mind. I'm like, he's a villain. He's killing just people with no remorse or anything. He totally justifies it to himself that it's okay to kill all these people. And it's like, well, they're doing bad things. Like, that's not he's not judge and executioner. Like, that's a really fucked up way to think about the world, kind of like, and he's a bad person. But like, I think it is like in that vein of like the Victorian era of science. It's like, it is supposed to turn it around and like, you think he's a monster, but really, isn't civilization kind of the monster? And I still look at it and be like, no, he's the monster. Like, I don't really think too much. I think it's similar to like Crimson Tide, where it's supposed to be kind of like, what would you do? Like, who's truly the hero? They kind of make this ambiguous ending, and I'm just like, nope, Denzel Washington's good. He's the hero in that one. Like, he didn't launch a nuclear missile. Probably pretty good.
Right. It does make you think quite a bit. Frickin' Disney movies from the 50s.
I know. It's the one it's probably the one that made us think the most. And yet it's a Disney film from the 50s.
Well, because everything else is super straightforward. Like, hey, we're going to go sink those enemy subs.
And like a movie like Run Silent, Run Deep, there is only one way to think about it. In the end, I mean, the way it was made was strictly for one viewpoint. It wasn't made for you to sit there and be like, but what about the Japanese that's on the other side of that? It's like, no, that's not, they didn't make it that way. Right, they didn't make it that way. Crimson Tide's the only one where they kind of did, but even didn't make it all the way to the middle.
Well, Phantom did.
Yeah, Phantom, obviously the best movie we watched. We gave that 12 inches, right?
No, we gave it pretty low, but
I know.
we always go back to it. That will be, again, the last episode that we do. We'll rewatch it.
20,001 episode.
Yes.
Would be
All right. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to some trivia about this one.
Okay.
So this is, just to mention off the bat, this is not one of the 5 trivia I picked out, but it is a classic film, and it was listed on the top 400 films of all time in the 1998 list. I'm not sure when it was updated. It was still on the list. That means actually, I think this year there'll be a new list. I think it was 1998, 2018. I think there'll be another list. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so this is the one where we get some choices. So we get to see some. Okay, so Walt Disney originally considered making this film as an animated feature, and got detailed pre-production sketches by artist Harper Goff, who's like a main guy in this whole thing, because he got so enthusiastic about making it that he was like, "Let's do it as a live action," because he felt like he can make it look really good as like a live action film, and so they did. But thinking back on our other submarine films, which one would have been the best Walt Disney animated film? Are you thinking Down Periscope, Little Cookie? We got animated Kelsey Grammer running around,
But with the penis tattoo.
Yeah, that's true. That would be really weird for a Walt Disney film.
movie.
Number 2, Crimson Tide. You could kind of. It's a little dark for like for it. Movie. Yeah. Run Silent, Run Deep, which I think is the worst one. That'd be a really not good Disney animated film. Hostile Waters. I revised my statement. That's the worst one.
Yes.
And then number 5, Phantom.
Oh man.
I feel like it.
It would be really hard for any of these to be
Yeah, I just can't imagine that.
an animated. I guess I would have to, with the goofiness, I would have to say Down
Periscope. Yeah, but the thing is, they usually like a Walt Disney film is usually not like. It's not like a bunch of goofy people in the way. I mean, a lot of times it's more of like a heroic thing. I feel like maybe Crimson Tide. He's kind of the hero adventure.
But then there's always those weird little goofy things going on in Disney.
They would have to make it more a little more crazy. But I think they could have done it pretty. It would have been a really interesting trying to twist to try to make that into an animated film.
All right, would they have kept all the same actors animated?
Yes, of course, obviously.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it a little bit better.
Animated Gene Hackman. No, I mean they would have to have made like Gene Hackman's character. They couldn't be so middle of the road really with it. They'd have to go to an extreme. Like he'd have to be like an evil person, and then Denzel Washington's like the good person.
Right. So Denzel would be like Aladdin, and Gene Hackman would be Jafar.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And it wouldn't really be about like the XO. It might be about like the sonar guy.
Oh, if we're talking, because
you make it more of like a story of the
rags to riches type
the lower person who kind of saves the day a little bit against the person who's decided. Actually, this is gonna make me think Phantom's the best one. It's like you'd be like, it really would be like the evil person who wants to start a war, and then like the people who are fighting against it.
Right, because there's only 2 bad guys.
You know what? It is. It's Phantom. I'm sorry, guys. Phantom is the best animated film. Oh, man. Those animated oranges when they spill those oranges. Oh, man.
I just imagine it in my head. All this like
Disney
type stuff.
And when the old submariner shoots himself.
Yeah, like at the beginning.
When he kills himself.
Great.
It would definitely end the same way, though. Where it's like, and they were rescued, and his family is totally into him now.
Right. It's like, what the hell did I just watch?
All right, so
I hope they do that.
Phantom
in Disney animation,
and they need more advocates like us to help out.
Let's write in and see if they can do it.
Yeah. All right, so Walt Disney briefly considered English actor Ralph Richardson for the role of Captain Nemo. And I guess my question for myself was, did he ever get his submarine chance? And the answer was yes. He previously starred in the film The Silver Fleet. He was a Dutch submarine builder who sabotaged ships he was building for the Nazis.
Oh.
Silver Fleet.
Scandalous.
And then Charles Boyer was originally considered for the role of Professor Aaron X, but he had to turn down the role due to prior commitments. He unfortunately didn't get his chance to star in a submarine film and likely died thinking about submarines. That's a Zach fact.
I believe it. Likely. Can you imagine?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So,
any regrets?
Submarine
never was in a sub movie.
Number 3, I love settings. I personally love settings. So this was set in the Pacific, but it was actually shot on location. So that when they were doing the, cannibal scene and stuff like that, that was all filmed in Jamaica and the Bahamas. So while it was set in the Pacific Ocean, it was actually in the Caribbean.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun fact. 1984, Dino De Laurentiis. Do you know who that is? De Laurentiis?
I do not.
So he was a kind of a B movie producer back in the 80s.
Okay.
He made like Conan and movies like that, which were
Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. He made like a lot of like sci-fi and kind of B movie stuff, and he took out a full page ad in Variety announcing that there was going to be a remake, and he had gotten George Fraser to adapt the screenplay, Richard Lester to direct, but he had a string of flops that basically ended his production company at the end of the 80s. And so he wasn't able to find funding in the end for the film. And so, the question for that one again is, did he get his submarine dream? The answer was yes. He was a producer of U-571.
Ooh.
All right.
Future sub movie. All right, and this is my favorite one. Kirk Douglas. So he was punching people. He was smooching, only person smooching on some ladies this time, because there wasn't any ladies in this movie.
Well, he was
the two he was smooching on
Esmeralda too, though.
Oh, that's true. And
So-
he was getting some. Oh yeah, he was getting some on that submarine. The only person on that submarine getting anything. And so in his autobiography, he apparently insisted. He said he wasn't going to take the role unless they rewrote it to include a couple scenes where he got to fight people and that he got to have some ladies on his arms. So they wrote that beginning scene to appease him. And at first I thought, horseshit. Like, no way did someone do this. But he was also the most expensive actor Walt Disney had ever paid. He got $175,000 at that time. $175,000 to star in this film. And so he was a hot commodity. Clearly they wanted him in the film, and this is a true story. It's kind of everywhere. You can find it in a lot of different spots. He had them rewrite it. He was a macho man. He wanted to fight in every movie, and he wanted to, be a ladies' man in every movie. And they said he wouldn't star in this film unless they did. And so they rewrote it and made it so that it was like that.
You think that's a time era thing? Because remember in Run Silent, Run Deep, they also rewrote that stuff for Clark Gable.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's the golden era thing. I think it's funny because a lot of people talk about branding, like, oh man, you just got to think about your brand and stuff like that. People forget. People really knew about their brand back in like the 50s and stuff.
Right.
When you were someone like Kirk Douglas and you were punching people in the face and smooching ladies in every movie, you had to smooch a lady and punch someone in your movie. Right. Or else people would be like, what is he? What happened to Kirk Douglas?
It's going soft.
Yeah. It's going weak on us. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm not going to his next movie because he didn't punch someone or smooch a lady this time.
Right.
And so they were he was very into that. And so, yeah, he had it rewritten. It was my favorite one. It's just such a crazy thing. And he did it. He actually not the only movie that he did that for. He forced rewrites on The Vikings and The War Wagon, 2 other films he did in the same way.
Really?
Yeah. So this isn't the
only
titles
of those movies you'd think they'd be going on anyway.
Right.
War Wagon, Vikings.
Yeah. He had them rewrite it so that he had a couple ladies on his arms in like a early scene, so that people knew, okay, this is a Kirk Douglas we know and love. Thank God. Wow. Oh, I was worried for a second that I wouldn't see Kirk Douglas with 2 ladies on his arms, but there he is. This thing,
the sweat from my brow.
Oh man, I can jerk off now. Wait, what?
Took a dark turn.
All right, and just to finish it up, we got our 6 degrees.
Oh, here we go.
All right. So Peter Lorre is in both 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and a movie called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So that's going down, not 20,000s across. That's actually down to the bottom of the sea.
Is that another submarine movie?
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. This is all through submarine films. 6 degrees.
Put that on the watch list.
All right. That also features Walter Pidgeon, who was in the Neptune Factor with Ernest Borgnine. Borgnine had a major role in Torpedo Run, which features L.Q. Jones. L.Q. is in Battle of the Coral Sea. With Taro Shimada, we saw him in Run Silent, Run Deep, but I'm really going to use him to jump to that James Bond film that we used last time and continue all the way on to Ed Harris and Phantom.
Wow!
But I do want to highlight those first 2 I did just to listen to these plots. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Harriman Nelson is the creator of a revolutionary nuclear submarine. After testing its capabilities in the Arctic Ocean, Nelson, the commanding officer, serviced the vessel only to discover the sky ablaze. Learning that the Van Allen radiation belt has caught fire, Nelson conceives a plan that could save the planet from destruction, but the UN shoots it down. Nelson is convinced it will work, but an onboard psychiatrist questions his sanity. Wait, what? There's a lot going on there. First of all, what's the UN got to do with garbage on this thing? The fucking radiation belt's on fire. Let him do whatever the hell he wants. I don't understand. The world is going to get destroyed.
We need to watch that movie.
Yeah, Voyage of the
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
that
so
sounds good.
the Neptune factor. When an earthquake on the ocean floor causes an underwater laboratory to fall into a deep trench and places the scientists' lives in peril, Commander Adrian Blake embarks on a rescue mission in his small experimental submarine. Along with a crew that includes Dr. Leah Jansen and diver Don McKay, Blake attempts to save the scientists from the unexplored depths while encountering gigantic sea creatures that threaten their survival. They've made submarine movies all the time, and a bunch of them had these crazy plots.
Because they sound flippin' awesome.
Yeah, I don't understand. Why aren't we watching these things?
All right, don't worry. They're on the watch list now.
All right.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
That first one's my favorite. There's just so much questioning his sanity. It's like, okay, the radiation belt just caught on fire. You question no one's sanity.
Yeah, you're like, hold on.
Why are you even here?
We got to check with the UN real quick.
You gotta check with the UN and my psychiatrist. Wait, what?
It's just perfect.
It's like if in Armageddon, Bruce Willis was like, "Let me check with the UN and the psychiatrist real quick before I drill on this asteroid."
That would have been amazing.
They'd be like, get the hell out of here. We're sending these astronauts up whether you like it or not.
First 45 minutes of that movie is him just like fighting politicians, and then
he's in his
and
therapist's office.
he's just laying down on the little sofa.
I gotta drill into this asteroid. Like, not sure you're really sane enough to be an astronaut. Like, who cares? Who fucking cares? We're all gonna die anyways.
My word. Well, that's some exciting trivia.
Yeah.
We got 2 new movies for the watch list. Perfect.
Alrighty.
All right.
Cool.
So I've mentioned this is Subs Worldwide. I've mentioned this sub before. It is the world's most expensive submarine.
Is it the Seawolf?
No. It's more expensive than that.
What?
Yes.
Is it Sea Lab?
No, it should be. It's the French Triomphant class, or however they say it. Most expensive submarine on the planet. French Navy
Of
has...
course the French would.
Yep, right? It's just stocked with all sorts of
Yeah,
cheeses
just
and
caviar.
wines.
Probably just sit there and look at it.
Well, so, all right. There's something that's really funny. I'll get to that in a second. So they have 4 of these in active duty, and these are only really used as a nuclear deterrent.
Oh, just like we have it, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they can carry 16 M40. Well, they have 16 M45 or M51 tubes that can shoot nuclear warheads out of them. So you can shoot 16 nukes per sub. That's
Dang.
Wow.
quite a bit. It's a ballistic missile submarine. It's got a pressurized water reactor, which is a specialized type of nuclear reactor. Produces 20,000 horsepower. It also has 2 diesel generators. These things are an impressive 452 feet long, hold 15 officers, 96 sailors. And like I said, they have 16 tubes to shoot nuclear weapons, 4 torpedo tubes. They can also shoot anti-ship missiles. The last one was put into commission in 2010.
Wow. That's really funny that it's just like, check it out. We have it.
Right.
If you do anything,
We will use
we might use it.
it. We might. Probably not, but
We don't necessarily know how to work it. we haven't used it before, so
it's just sitting on land.
yeah. Well, we'll crack it out though. We will crack it out. I wonder if they have a captain for it. Like if there's someone who's like, I'm the captain of the ship, but they never take it out. Probably, right? Just in case they had to. Like they would need someone to be like, I can know how to work the ship. I'm the captain of it.
Right.
He doesn't get to whip his dick out like ever.
No,
Oh.
just at home. He's like, I'm the captain.
I'm the captain here.
Captain of my apartment.
I'm the captain here. No one can tell me I can't. I'm the captain.
But yeah, I don't think maybe we need to start getting into foreign films. Think there's any French sub movies?
There's probably are. I mean, one of the funny ones is like one of the worst reviewed. I think it's one of the worst reviewed ones I saw was an Indian submarine film, like out of Bollywood.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure our local public library, we are able to get it through that.
That's where we get all these movies, really.
Yeah. Alrighty, we got any submarine news?
Yeah, I got an article that I found. It's a quick one, but it's a pretty funny one, and it kind of goes in line with what we were just talking about with the French, with them maybe or maybe not knowing how to use a submarine correctly. So this article just broke 11 days ago, according to this website, but the incident originally happened back in February of 2017. So the country of India built their very first nuclear submarine and launched it in 2017. Okay?
Okay.
So now, mind you, India is one of the powerful countries in the world. They've had nuclear capabilities since the 70s, and they just now finally figured out how to make their first nuclear submarine. So they're lagging behind big time. So they've got their ship, their submarine here, and it cost $2.9 billion. Essentially what had happened is they were, I guess they were heading out to sea for one of the very first times, and someone left a hatch open on the side of the submarine.
Oh my God.
Quality control.
Yeah, thing flooded up real quick. They had to bring it back up. Since then, it has been undergoing repairs and cleanup for a brand new $2.9 billion submarine. It was out of commission as soon as it got in.
That's so bad.
So did it just relaunch?
No, from what I'm understanding, they are actually still trying to, what does this article say? It says repair work for general cleaning up, and many pipes had to be cut open and replaced. Is
Almost
says.
a year later, and they're still doing it.
And they're still doing this, yeah. So I don't even know if this is when it first broke. I don't know if there was other news about it. But this article was just released 10 days ago, and it had me laughing so much.
That's ridiculous. Like, hey, you get this very expensive war machine. Don't screw it up.
Yeah.
You just call within 5 minutes. We got to come back. We screwed it up.
We didn't close the hatch. Yeah, we only do that once every few times that we go on when we take the submarine down.
Right. Yeah. I did it.
We usually, probably at least 80% of the time we close the hatch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're pretty good.
We're still working on getting into good habits.
Yeah. I say it's a pretty good for a 4-man operation.
So the article, I guess, really, if you think about it, a lot of the movies we've seen always has a lot of stuff with seawater interfering with other things.
Oh, it does.
In the submarine that
seawater's
makes it
getting
volatile
in a lot.
and everything. Yeah. So this was a real life example of what can happen. Kind of sucks that it's their first ship ever.
Put it out of commission for a year.
So
Phantom did. Mm-hmm. Did it? It did. Yeah. Because they talked about how that's how they were dying.
For sure did.
Yeah, they were dying. They were dying at the end because water was getting in and screwing with the stuff, right? Oh no,
they got on the batteries and dangerous gas.
Yeah.
Crimson Tide, obviously. We saw what's his name die.
What the heck is his name?
I'm forgetting now. From Saving
Steve
Silverman. Steve Zahn dies. Run Silent, Run Deep.
Yep, the one that we just watched. Yep.
Duh.
Mm-hmm.
The one we just watched,
Hostile
obviously.
Waters.
Hostile Waters, yes. And Down Periscope? No.
I don't think, there wasn't any water damage there.
No, that was the only one. Down Periscope is the one that we have not, that they did not have water get into the submarine.
And this one that we just watched, 20,000 of the Leagues, even water got in there because it started to flood too, and they had to close off some of the compartments.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice in the Nautilus? I didn't even really pay attention to this till the scene where the cannibals were boarding the ship, that it wasn't a traditional hatch. It was just like stairs down into the sub. And I don't ever remember seeing them close it or anything.
Well, it's the same thing of the one thing with the Nautilus is it's got windows.
Huge windows.
It's the only submarine it's probably going to be the only submarine we see with windows, unless maybe like Atlantis, that Walt Disney film Atlantis or whatever.
Oh, right.
There's going to be some other like theoretical submarines that have windows, or like small submersibles like in Steve Zissou, Life Aquatic with Steve
Oh,
Zissou.
right.
Unless it's, almost all the time, it's always like sonar and you can't look outside. And it was really weird to be on a submarine where they're like, look over there, there's the ship. It's like,
Well, and
wait,
they were getting off the sub underwater.
yeah, you could
also.
see them out there. Yeah.
One thing I did think was funny during that scene where they were going on that hunting mission. You remember? I think it was the assistant when they like pressurized that room so everybody can get in. He's like trying to bang on the door to get out. They like force him down into that hole.
Yeah.
And it's just so because it's like so slow and exaggerated. He's just like pounding. They're like clamp his hands there and force him through. It's perfect.
You know what? They did have a hatch though on the Nautilus because that's how Ned Land was throwing the bottles with the coordinates out.
They had a forward hatch.
Yeah, they did have another hatch
on the back or whatever.
Isn't that the one they got in and out of all the time?
No. He kind of like opened it. It was the same thing where you screw it down.
Oh.
It was more of a traditional hatch.
Yeah, so they had both. Yeah, because that other one you could just kind of like walk right on in like a plank.
Right.
Kind of weird. Huh. Makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder.
All right. Do we got any other sections? Is that all we got?
I think that's about it.
Wow.
All right.
This one
Normally
did okay.
we've talked about who would be best, and you could change actors.
Well, yeah. This time I did more of the animated thing, but
Right.
because it's a little hard. I mean, obviously the answer would be Ed Harris as Captain Nemo.
Right.
Tops.
Yeah, for sure.
Who would you have as Kirk Douglas?
Okay, I was thinking this the entire time when I was watching it. I could not get it out of my head. But Matthew McConaughey, man, it seemed like the kind of character he would play in and out.
That's true. That definitely does seem, especially that scene when he saves Captain Nemo and comes back and is like, "Oh shucks, like I shouldn't have saved you. The only thing to do now is get drunk."
Get drunk.
Like that's a very
McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey thing to do.
That would have been really good. You're right, Alex.
Yeah, that was so McConaughey is him. Professor's just got to be some like whatever person.
He was just a weak, odd, flip-floppy character.
I didn't like it. Jack Black as the apprentice.
Conceal. Yeah, I could see that.
Jack Black as the apprentice would be really good.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know who would be the professor. It'd have to be someone who can just kind of like play along. You know who would have been another good Captain Nemo? Who's the guy from like Taken? Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson.
Yeah. I feel like Liam Neeson.
Really good.
Liam Neeson gives you the nice like ambiguity. He's like dangerous, but he's like also seems like a good guy.
He's in. Isn't he in U571?
No, he's in K-19.
He's in K-19.
Oh, K-19. That's right.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he is in U571. I don't know. I know he's for sure in
It's just in like all the sub movies.
K-19. Yeah.
Yeah, the professor's the hardest one to cast because you got to think of someone who would.
Oh, you know what? You know who he should have been?
Who?
That grandpa from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The
Oh,
old one.
well, sure. I mean, now we're talking like
Grandpa Joe.
another old actor that wasn't particularly famous.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think you'd have to go with like, there's some older kind of character actors that would you just kind of fill in that role. Not great.
No, character wasn't great.
Maybe not Ed Harris.
No, not as a professor.
Maybe now David Duchovny.
Yeah, somebody you don't really need to be doing anything.
Yeah, just he can just woodenly say like, "Oh, right."
You're like, oh, okay, good job.
I don't do anything rash.
I don't know. I would say like if Christopher Lee was still alive, maybe.
As the professor, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of there. I mean, kind of an older, goofy-looking guy could fit that part. But I don't know. Christopher Lee's been so many good characters throughout so many movies. That would really be bad to watch him as that character.
I didn't even know he died.
Maybe we grab a little Michael Douglas. Have him kind of not take over the role of Kirk Douglas's character, but now he gets to be in the new film.
Or father and son.
Well,
you could
both.
have Kirk
get Kirk back in the
Kirk
scenes.
could now be the professor.
That might be a rough go of it. He is 101 years old. He'd be 102 by the time they start filming.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe you get a lady. Oh, you know what? How about a lady professor?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Kate Blanchett. A little Blanchett action.
I'm thinking.
Meryl Streep. I'm thinking it too.
That was literally the furthest thing from my mind.
I mostly sit here thinking about Meryl Streep during this.
Do you?
Yeah.
What about Susan Sarandon? She could be a good professor.
A little kooky.
Do they have to be old? Well, I guess they have to be renowned in the
They have to
field.
be a little, they have to be renowned, and they have to be a little older than someone like Jack Black if he was the apprentice. You know, why don't we make it an all ladies, kind of like a Ocean's 8
Ghostbusters?
Ghostbusters thing?
All right.
All ladies, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Kate Blanchett is now Captain Nemo, I think.
Scarlett Joe is now
Ooh.
Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas, Scarlett Joe. Great
Okay.
casting. Great cast.
Mila Kunis is the assistant.
That's pretty good.
And then who would the professor be?
God, the professor is hard to cast in all of these things. He's just like a garbage person.
Glenn Close.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Not to say that Glenn Close is garbage. Glenn Close is great.
No.
She's a great actress.
Yeah, she's
and she'd be able
amazing.
to pull it off.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's pitch it. 20,000
See what
under
happens.
all women, 20,000 League Under the Sea.
And they could be escaping like a male-driven
Be-
society.
oh,
and some,
okay, okay.
Like, all-female utopia.
I really
underwater.
worried that was going to be something offensive that you were about to say.
No.
They were escaping. Whoa. Yeah.
The normal world.
Oh, no. All right.
Cool.
Are we good to go?
I think we're good. Thank you for
Alrighty.
tuning in to episode 6, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Thanks for listening to Submersion. Find us on SoundCloud and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.